Welcome to Centennial Edge. I'm Justin White, Managing Partner, and today I'm joined by Camille Moniz, Vice President of Sales. Camille and I are going to talk a little bit about somebody joining us, what that process looks like, what are the success factors for people who get into commercial real estate, and how she and her team changes the odds for success when somebody wants to get into commercial real estate and have a very successful career. Thanks for joining us, Camille.
Thanks for having me.
Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about your career path, a little bit about you, how you ended up as the vice president of sales for a commercial real estate firm?
Well, I always think it's a fun story because when I graduated college, it was COVID. I didn't really know what was going to happen, but I felt like historically I was always the type of person who, I would try different things and take on different challenges and just kind of like to surround myself with good people. So, when I got the opportunity to meet you, Justin, I think the first thing that I really maybe even subconsciously noticed without even realizing it was that you were somebody who wanted to coach people, help people no matter their background, right? Like we always joke about my resume coming in that I did things, but it was nothing super impressive, right? I think the probably most impressive thing was just that I tried and I put myself out there, and no matter what I did, I always tried to be the best at it or take on leadership or things like that. So I kind of came in with not a ton of experience, but I think I just always liked to try. And eventually I just learned a lot of different aspects of the business, all the back end, the day-to-day of an agent. I made the calls that the agents made. I attended the meetings. I did all the things. And that's what really put me in the position today, along with lots of mentorship and coaching along the way, to now get to lead our team and help in the agent success from day one of getting them through the door and seeing that this is an opportunity that can really set them up for success. And then the path to growing that and taking it to whatever level that they're really looking for.
So when you started, did you think you'd have the title of vice president of sales at any point in your career?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Why'd you have that impression?
Well, I think that without really knowing too much about this industry, I think the impression most people have about sales is, your door to door, your cheesy pitches, the really pushy salesperson, and maybe a product that you don't really care about, right? And I think that I also thought of myself as a pretty reserved person. So the thought of sales or public speaking or anything of that matter was pretty daunting to me. Um, and what was really cool is I think you probably saw that in me before I saw that in me. And I think that's half of it, is just finding the people who will give you a chance and teach you the way. And through that process, I found something that I do really care about, right? I get to help people just the same way our agents get to help people every day. I get to change lives. And I think when you find something that you are passionate about, it becomes easy to talk about it every day. I don't really even think of my role as sales at this point because I just get to help people.
So talk a little bit more about that, because you're certainly thriving right now in a role that is certainly having a huge impact on the company. But what didn't you believe about yourself or understand about a sales career then that now, with a little experience and being tossed into the water and having to swim, that it maybe is a lot more than what you thought it was, and certainly a lot more rewarding?
Well, so obviously I've learned quite a bit about sales, whether it's through just talking to our people, reading the books, the podcasts, all of it, right? And at the end of the day, sales is psychology and connecting with people and learning how to listen. And I think to my advantage, maybe since I am a little bit more reserved at first, I'm good at listening to people and connecting with people. So I think when I realized that part of that's really what sales is, that made it a lot easier. So I think that's a big misconception about what is sales, right? That you don't really just have to be a talker all day, every day. And yeah, I think that's really helped me in my journey. And then again, the becoming passionate and slowly becoming an expert at what I do makes it easier as well.
Let's talk a little bit more in sales, or at least in the application process for sales. You get a lot of talkers.
Yeah.
What's the advice to a talker on how they can really be good at sales? Because you said it perfectly a second ago. Sales is more about listening and asking questions and trying to understand where somebody's at than it is about telling someone about the
Mhm.
features of the product.
Yes. And I think that that's something that I see a lot of people get stuck in because also in the beginning, a lot of people think they need to know a lot of stuff, that they have to have all this information, know all the strategies, and then I guess word vomit that on the clients to make them impressed and sound like they're knowledgeable. But half the time, what gets our foot in the door in building a relationship and helping somebody is asking the questions and figuring out how we can really help them and what are the pain points, what's really going on with them. So, for somebody who maybe finds themselves as more of a talker, you can definitely still use that to your advantage of being personable. We have lots of people on our team who are very easy to talk to, right? Maybe they were bartenders or different types of service people, so they love to talk to people all day, every day. And, I think that you can refine that and learn to listen to the windows of opportunities and then convert that to the next phase. But you don't need to just talk to convince people because I don't really think that's the strategy here.
Um, in 20 some odd years of doing this, I would say that doesn't work very often. In sales. The best ones and the best opportunities are when you ask a bunch of questions and you really learn where somebody's coming from and what they really want to accomplish. Because oftentimes in our business, as we both know, it's not that people don't want to do it, it's that they don't know how to get to where they really want to go.
Yeah.
And I think brokers in general have an even harder time of just asking the questions to uncover what somebody really wants to do, what they'd really like to accomplish, and then putting together the plan and helping somebody get to ultimately that end goal.
Yeah.
But you talked a little bit about the types of people or strategies that work. What are some of the insights you wish more people knew as they're looking at a career in commercial real estate?
Well, I think it goes a little bit to what I was just talking about is I think a lot of people, I hear a lot of it in the interviews is one of the things that they think is going to be the biggest challenge is learning all of the information and knowing everything. And a lot of times they get the advice to go work at a residential company to get a little bit of real estate experience before coming to commercial, as if that's the stepping stone. And they're so different, right? The types of people, the types of transactions, the drivers of why somebody buys and sells. So I don't necessarily think that's going to help somebody in suddenly being great in commercial real estate. So I think a lot of people get that mental block of I have to know all this information to be successful. But I mean, yes, our program definitely focuses on training and teaching on a lot of the steps. However, I think it boils down to being willing to show up and do the basic steps of the process, put in the time, put in the volume of what you need, and slowly you will get better and better. And again, it goes back to being willing to just talk to people, ask questions, have curiosity. And through those conversations, you'll find the people who need to do something. So I think that initial stage of getting started is a lot easier than a lot of people think, as long as you just show up and start doing the little actions. And, in our situation, we'll help you with all the complicated stuff. That's why you have a senior mentor who's going to be the salesperson for you in the beginning while you're still learning how to have the complex conversations.
It's 20 some odd years into the business, looking back on how I'm still learning, and that every deal has some unique thing that makes it different, where there's always an opportunity to learn to grow in the communication, in the negotiation, and in all the different phases of our business. But it's really that ability to put first things first in the beginning. There's so much, as you say, and we cover a lot of it. Sometimes maybe even too much.
Yeah.
And it can be overwhelming. And one of those skills that really differentiates a lot of people is the ability to do the important thing and the thing that needs to be done now versus something.
Yeah.
You want to talk a little bit about that, or you see how that shows up in your work with people?
Well, I was going to say also, Something that we talk about is, if someone were to hire a broker and pay him $100,000 to do a job, what would that entail? That's a question we like to ask people when they first get started to get their brains turning about what type of agent they want to be and what type of service they want to deliver. And yes, there's all the expertise and the sales skills and the negotiation skills, but the one that always sticks with me is that everybody showing up day one can have two things: a pure determination to be successful and to help people, and a passion to help people. Like, you can show up with those two things and set yourself up to success, and we'll build towards the rest, right? Like, I remember like an analogy you gave once in training where it was a pyramid, and I think you were filling it in as you learned over the years. And you made the analogy where it's like, for the most part, in the first couple of years in your business, you barely color in the corner of the pyramid, and slowly you'll build and build and build. But like, you can start making money even with that corner colored in. You can start being successful with that, but you got to start somewhere.
I think that that's part of that is just putting first things first. You can't control what you don't know.
Yeah.
You can't control what other people are gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
But you can do the right things every day. You can come in with that passion and determination and that desire to help people. And with those two traits and doing the things that somebody like you or our other people around here are guiding someone on success of doing the things that are the right things, not the comfortable things. You
Yeah.
kind of combine that stuff and you see a lot of people around here having a lot of success.
Totally. I mean, I think it goes back to a lot of the things that we talk about with our people of, you can't control when somebody's going to sell their building. And the purpose of what we're doing on the phones isn't necessarily to convince somebody of that, but it's to help them in the meantime. Because most of the time people are just owners and operating. So if you can be resourceful and valuable to them in that meantime, then when it's time to sell, you'll be their choice. But you just have to put yourself in that position. I mean, I think it's the same as me just putting myself in the position to meet you and then get this job, and now 6 years later still be working hard in it. But I wouldn't have gotten the shot if I didn't show up to that interview or have some of those conversations. So it's the same in the agent role as well. Just put yourself out there.
So many people decide their success based on the performance of other people that have all kinds of things happening in their lives that are unrelated to the person who doesn't get in the business because, oh, well, a bunch of these other people that I don't know, that I have nothing in common with, didn't make it.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
like, it's baffling. And
It's fascinating.
we have so many of these younger people that you talk to that are all excited, and then they go read on the internet or talk to their parents or whatever, and they get stifled from doing it.
Yeah. We talk about it all the time in the office of, why gauge yourself on everybody else when you're directly in control of your own actions every single day, right? It's
Yeah.
like in sports or in school or whatever, that you just decide you're going to be as good as the best person on the team rather than why can't you be the best?
I was reading something the other day about, or it was talking about Tiger Woods, and it was like Tiger Woods made Jack Nicklaus's 18 majors his goal.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what if he would have said 40?
Yeah.
Like, he probably would have won 36 or 45 or something like that.
Oh, yeah. Well, we talk a lot about goals in the office all the time, my goals, other people's goals. And I was actually thinking about this last night as well, is that, I mean, a lot of the goals you've probably heard me say over the years were big and maybe not super realistic, but I thought, well, if I don't say them to somebody, then I'm definitely not going to accomplish them, right? Whether it's when I think I'm going to retire by, or when I think I'm going to buy my first property by. And some of them took me longer than I probably would have liked. But there's a lot of things that I crossed off the list in the last few years that I'm pretty proud of. So I definitely think it's like, shoot for the moon. And if you hit the stars, like, you still did pretty good.
How does someone guarantee their success in a perceived, let's call it high fail career path?
Mm-hmm. Well, I say a lot of times that I think anybody could really do this job if they wanted to, but I don't think that everybody is willing to do the things that it takes. However, I also feel that if you really just focus on the basic, simple tasks each day, your success is inevitable. Right? So in the beginning, it's a lot of just putting in the time. I mean, any entrepreneur's story, I used to love to watch Shark Tank and hear someone came up with some idea in their garage and they wanted the freedom of not a corporate job, showing up every day, clocking in, clocking out, but in turn to create this life of freedom, they buckled down and put in 10x the amount of work to get this thing started. And it's kind of the same in this, where it's like you're going to have to put in a lot of work on the front end. But if you just focus on those little micro tasks every single day, the calls, the skill development, and those all compound, again, going back to just putting yourself out there and getting the shots, those will compound to the big paydays. I think I see a lot of people, we're in a society where it's like instant gratification, get rich quick. Everyone wants things fast. And, it's hard. You're on social media, you see it all day, every day. But I think the great things that actually last take time to build. And that's what this is. So I think the high fail concept of this career is more that most people don't want to do the hard work. But what that creates is a great opportunity for the people who always want to be the best at what they do and are always willing to work hard and to make a lot of money doing it, because not everybody wants to do it.
So you've been around a lot of successful people. You've
Yes.
seen a lot of people start their career with not the maybe typical background and be very, very successful.
Yeah.
And you also talked about it's doing the basics and it's doing certain things every day.
Hmm.
So, in your 6 years here, you've worked with a lot of people that came in that didn't have any experience in the industry, and they're immensely successful now, whether it's Axel or Sean,
Hmm.
Spencer, a number of our people that are doing really, really well.
Yeah.
Somebody who is a hard worker, who is determined, puts other people first. Like if they come in, can you tell them exactly what to do every day to ensure their success?
Absolutely. Like the plan is already written. We have exactly what somebody needs to do every single day, every step of the process, so that they can show up and not really have to doubt where they need to go. Whether it's the schedule for the day, the curriculum we're going to focus on, the skill development we're going to focus on. I mean, it's all there and all laid out so that somebody can just plug and play. And one of the things I like to say is that, I mean, we're going to teach you all the fundamentals, all the core competencies, all of that, so that then someone can come and run at their own pace. So you bring up a couple of names of people on our team, and I mean, they're testaments to that, where they learned the basics and then they made it their own because each one of them has different goals and ambitions for their personal lives that then ultimately drive what they do in their profession every single day, right? Axel maybe doesn't care about materialistic things, but he cares about traveling the world and having a lot of experiences. And that's what motivates him, or retiring early. And everyone has a different thing that motivates them. But once you have the tools, it's just about the discipline and the consistency, and almost rinse and repeat that process as many times as you want to be successful.
You said an amazing thing a couple seconds ago, is that you're confident that you have the process
Mm-hmm.
and the plan that somebody can come in and not doubt,
Yeah.
because that is ultimately one of the biggest challenges, is the doubt that creeps in.
Yeah.
And that you've seen it enough, you've been a part of it so many times with so many people that have been successful, that you have the plan where all the doubt can come out of it.
Yes.
It's pretty cool.
It
How
is
does
pretty
it
cool.
how does how does it feel that you've got that level of certainty when you bring somebody in and they're trusting you to help them start this business?
Yeah. I mean, it feels amazing. It goes back to me talking about my selling versus passion, right? It's easy to talk about something and bring people in when I can be very confident that I know it works. We've seen it thousands of times. So we know it works. There's no doubt in that at all. I think that each person can come in and trust the process and you were talking about looking around the room and seeing people. I mean, you're surrounded by people doing it every single day, people doing it for all ranges, right? We've got the people doing it for a couple of years, all the way to people doing it 20, 30 years. So how could you have any doubt that it doesn't work?
It's a
Seems
really
simple,
good
right?
point. It's a really good point. All right, let's go back to your career. Um,
Okay.
so we'll go let's go 10 years ago.
Okay.
What did you expect of your career 10 years in?
I think it's hard. You spend so much time in school and being built up to this grand moment of graduation and what's the future going to look like. And you kind of don't know. I always say it's interesting, like you graduate high school and you pick a degree, not really knowing what most of the world looks like. Maybe you're influenced by some of the people around you, right? My family was in business. So I was like, huh, business sounds interesting. But I had no idea what sector. And I was actually just talking about this with a couple people the other day, where it's like no matter what your skill or your trait is, every industry has that need. So, I studied marketing, so I was pretty confident I was going to go into something marketing related. I still get to have a part of that today to some degree, but I started to realize that maybe that wasn't truly my passion because I got exposed to things that I didn't really even realize were possible. I didn't truly understand investment real estate when I was younger, of like what it really did for people, or that the average person did it. It seemed like this far out of touch thing, right? And so once I started to realize what this really was, I was like, well, this is an industry that everyone needs to be involved in to some degree, whether you're an agent making the money or an investor down the road. Like, it just needs to be something that everyone knows about. So did I think I would end up in this industry? No. If you were to ask my parents, they might have actually had some sort of inclination. I think my dad likes to say, well, I could see you getting into real estate.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
He always has a little bit of foresight.
After the fact?
After the fact. No. But I think that they always thought I would end up in some degree of business. We just weren't sure what. So,
Okay. So, for people out there that are starting to consider and look at different options for
yeah.
their career, describe the difference between your friend's salary job and your commission driven career. Like whether it's the engagement or the ownership or the comfort and certainty. I would imagine that your job and your career looks a little different from a lot of your friends
Yeah.
that maybe aren't as entrepreneurial as you are.
Right. Well, I think there's a couple of different things that you can say on this topic, right? Like, again, going back to graduation, when you're trying to figure out where you're going to land, because I talk to tons of students graduating, trying to find their path. And we're pretty much always proposed this traditional path where you climb the corporate ladder, you work your way up, you get new titles, and therefore you get new pay. Well, the challenge with that, I mean, we just saw tons of layoffs recently, and now a ton of people can't find work. So there's those types of challenges where somebody else is dictating if you have the job or not. And then also there's the part where you could be the hardest worker on the team, bending over backwards, working extra hours, doing all this stuff, but your pay stays the same.
I have a feeling you might have been that person that would have had a regular job and gotten a little frustrated.
Probably. And then that's what leads to people like moving around. I have friends who, like, every single year they're trying to get another job because at their current company, there's not new opportunity. So then they're forced to look elsewhere. And that's where you get that constant movement all the time. And you never really get good at anything because you're constantly relearning a new system and a new process and a new role. So I feel like those are the caveats of your traditional path. So that's why I find so many people who start to look into the entrepreneurial realm. And I think what's great about this type of opportunity is it's entrepreneurial, but the blueprint is already laid out. You don't have to go invent this thing or create this thing from the ground up. It's pretty much already laid out. So you can come into it knowing I'm going to work really hard and I'm going to do whatever it takes to be successful, however I've defined success. And I just have to follow the path. So then once you learn the basics, again, it's that rinse and repeat process of I just keep doing those things and I keep getting more out of those things because I'm getting better. And that's how people make the type of money in this that is so scalable. Like in the US, on average, you get a 3 to 6% raise every year for cost of living. Versus in this, I have people doubling their income year over year. Like, the only other thing you can do that is maybe a lawyer or doctor after you've gone to school for 10 years and paid millions of dollars. So, I think it's a pretty good plan.
Well, you sound pretty excited to get to the rest of your day. So I got two questions for you. First one will be a tip for people that are going through the process now, trying to find their next opportunity. You interview and meet with hundreds of people
Yeah.
On a monthly basis. What little things mean a lot to you in an interview?
We talk about it a lot because we're in the business of communication, but it really feels like communication is a lost art today. Where, starting in the interview, my very first interaction with somebody, I'm getting to see how they communicate with people. So whether it's the emails, responses, how they communicate in the interview, the follow-ups after the interview, that's all telling me how you're going to be on a day-to-day basis, working with you, communicating with you, communicating with your clients. So, I think that there's a lot of simple things somebody could do to give themselves the best position, to present themselves professionally, to seem excited and engaged. We talk a lot about asking questions. I think sometimes people are scared to ask questions, and we're in the business of asking questions. So please ask me lots of questions, because I also want somebody to really understand the opportunity. It's a big choice. So if you're not asking questions, there's probably a lot getting left on the table that would be a surprise later. So I just think communication is so, so important. We're chronically on a screen these days, but that little personal touch of a phone call or following up and just showing that you're into it goes a long ways.
We talked a little bit about passion and things that we're interested in throughout this today. I know a big one of yours is art, and I'm always pushing to have some Camille Moniz art in the office that we haven't got to yet. But what is the artist working on the weekends?
When I was moving into my new place a little while ago, it was a lot of that, home decor. And, I always am going back to maybe taking on more than I need to. I always believe if you can buy it, I can make it. So that's the challenge I usually like to take on with those types of things. Nothing currently in the works, but I feel like my friends and my community always try to motivate me to do that and get back to my hobbies. So maybe I'll start something new.
Maybe we'll see something in an office one day.
One day.
I've been joined by Camille Moniz, Vice President of Sales here at Centennial Advisors. If you want to reach out to Camille, her email is camille.moniz, Moniz, at Centennial Advisors, that we spell with an E on advisors. And it's been a great time talking with you about what you do, what you're seeing in the areas that you specialize in here at Centennial. And thank you for sharing your passion for what you do with everybody today on the Centennial Edge. Thanks.
Thank you.